Hey dudes, it's Sunset. We hope you had a great League Start weekend. Ours was a little bumpy, but we've been enjoying the Keepers League mechanic, and that's why we're bringing you this video. So anyway, here's Larold.
Alright, we just finished up a 5+ hour stream, so I'm just gonna get right into this. I guess I'll say the words like, subscribe, Discord, check all of that out. So there are really 4 types of encounters in this Breach 2.0, the prequel, and those would be like collapsing breaches and Eyelith hives. You run into those experiences pretty much back and forth throughout the campaign, and one of the common questions we got a lot during streams in the first few days was like, is it worth doing this mechanic in the campaign? And I think the answer is yes. It's ultimately up to you. It will give you a ton of XP and really, really good gear crafting power. Like, I had a 5-link body armor that was really good from like Act 4 on from the League mechanic. So it definitely carried all of my necessary player power. So the collapsing breaches are pretty close to the standard old Breach 1.0. The real difference here is that if you kill enough monsters before the timer expires, you are able to stabilize the breach, and then one of 2 things will happen if you're in the campaign, or just kind of like 60% of the time, I would say roughly in mapping. You'll just get like an elite squad of like 4 or 5 rares, and then you'll also get infinitely respawning monsters. I don't think they give any more XP, or if they do, it's greatly reduced. It will unfortunately work very badly with Soul Eater. This whole League mechanic has really demonstrated just how bad Soul Eater is in PoE 1. It's got to go, but whatever. If you kill those elites, then the rift will collapse, the breach will collapse, and you'll get all the rewards. You'll get womb gifts, you'll get breach blood, all of that stuff, graft blood, whatever it's called. So that's pretty standard, right? The other thing that can happen is you'll get Vroon, the sort of mini-boss of this League mechanic, will show up, and honestly, I can't really see like most of his mechanics. The main one that I've been able to tell that he has is just like a Cyclone that does a lot of damage. You want to stand out of that, that's kind of it. The next mechanic is defending Eyelith. That's like the other thing that occurs about as often as a collapsing breaches, maybe a little more frequently. And this is where you come upon a hive that's actually built up. And this is something that Sunset actually kind of like noticed before I did, is that you can make these a lot easier for yourself by not burning all of the walls. If you walk into the walls, they'll burn automatically. That is like literally how you get into mudflats. And so it kind of tutorializes you to burn all the walls, but by burning all the walls, you have no choke points, and monsters can come in at Eyelith from any direction, and she is actually somewhat flimsy. It's sort of a tower defense, but not really. You do get some skills. Again, another thing that Sunset kind of arrived on before myself is holding a lot of the skills for the end of the fight, because they are time-based, and the waves seem to be time-based as well. Really seems to be like the most successful method for getting through this. We've had some moments where, you put the shield on her at the end of the fight, and then that's it. It's a guaranteed win. So like holding heals and holding shields on Eyelith is critical. This is really important for the third type of event, which are the fortress events, which are basically just there's a building that you'll show up at instead of the regular Eyelith hive, and there's a very large, basically a second map inside of it with a bunch of chests that are absolutely worth looting. They will be filled with womb gifts and just tons of currency, so definitely worth going around and grabbing. And then in the very middle of the area will be Eyelith, and she will have a 24-wave hive event, and these can be pretty hairy. You do need a fair amount of damage and a fair amount of like ranged clear to keep everything off of her, but mostly it is about managing those skills correctly again. And once you finish that, you then have to like run out of the hive. So because of that, Toxic Rain Pathfinder's actually been really amazing for this League mechanic, having lots of range damage, the ability to like fill an area up with a bunch of damage over time, pods and pools from Caustic Air and Toxic Rain, but also like the ability to run around at Life Flask, while you're taking a bunch of damage and move very quickly is very good for getting out of the fortress at the end of that fortress event. Then the fourth type of event that you can have occur is just simply a boss fortress, and that is the end boss of this League mechanic. You're able to get that boss fortress by completing the other fortress or by killing Vroon, and this item will drop. It's called a Hive-Brained Gland. They're relatively cheap right now, maybe like 5 chaos, and if you put this into your map device like a Scarab or whatever, then it'll guarantee that you get the boss fight in the next map. I think it can randomly occur also in like tier 13 plus, according to the wiki anyways, but I didn't have this occur randomly. I only got it from using hive brain glands. If you complete that event, you will unlock this tree, the Breach Lord tree. You can take this bonus, Otherworldly Appendages, which gives you 15% less damage based on the type of grafts you have attached to you, and also gives you increased damage from those graft skills. It's pretty cool. I've been playing around with it. I do like it a lot. Now, this is a Bloodline Ascendancy, so it does come at the cost of some points from your baseline tree. You know, not to get too far afield of that, we'll have an update for Toxic Rain Pathfinder here in hopefully a day. But yeah, I've been playing around with this. I do like it, and I do like the grafts as well. So the reason that you do all of this stuff is to use the Genesis tree. This is fairly well tutorialized. There are 5 trees, and they all sort of correspond to different components of the main aspects of playing Path of Exile. You can craft items with a very robust item crafting system that's also very, very easy to follow. For example, let's say you wanted to make a body armor. You know, maybe the one big downside I would say of this tree is that like refunding points here is like it's kind of tedious. But if you wanted to make a body armor, you take Guardian Flesh, gives you increased chance for the item to be armor, and then you take increased body armor chance, 5,000% increased chance for the burst equipment to be body armor. Okay, boom. It's not guaranteed to be body armor, but it's pretty close. If you want it to be dexterity body armor, then you would take this less intelligence items, less strength items, and more dexterity items right here. There are some other really good bonuses in here as well. Arterial Mesh has been kind of a standout that people really like. So the chance to get a 6-link item is like roughly 1 in 1,500 if you're just using a random fusing on a 6-socketed item. And so this means basically that like 1 out of every 10 items that could have 6 sockets, 6 links, roughly, is going to be 6-linked, which means people have been printing tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of 6-linked items that are really good. They're able to get lots of other bonuses like plus 50 to modifier tier rating. This cuts off a lot of the very like low tier modifiers, you know, like the kind of, you know, like life rolls you would get at like level 5. So this is obviously very useful for just crafting lots of high level gear, and because of that, actually using this equipment tree to craft gear for yourself, very strong. Using it to craft gear to sell to other people, not so strong. Case in point, this body armor with a decent couple of resistance rolls and a decent life roll, and it's 6-linked, costs like 4 chaos on day 2 of the league. Yeah, not very valuable. But that's okay, because there are some other things that you can do with this league mechanic to still make some valuable items, and that would mainly come in the form of using Solid Cyst, this chance for burst equipment to be fractured. If you want to go after, this does require a little bit of game knowledge, but if you wanted to go after like fractured energy shield body armors, you would take, you know, all of these points down here to make it more likely to be int requirement and more likely to be a body armor. You would take Solid Cysts. You would also want to probably take Severing. This is a bit of a confusing modifier because it removes the lowest level modifier from an item. So if you're trying to craft stuff for yourself, it does actually annul an item mod off. So you probably don't want to take this. It can make it harder to roll modifiers on weapons and stuff. So I would be very careful with this one. But then you just want to, like, you know, emphasize not getting mana modifiers with some of these up here. For example, reduced chance of modifiers. There's reduced chance of mana modifiers right here. Lots of stuff like that. So trying to go for fractured bases with this whole setup, fractured 6-link bases, seems like the right approach for me for actually making currency out of it. Otherwise, I think it's more about just really good quality of life for making some very good basic gear for yourself. The unique tree is very much a gamble tree. I think you could play around with this. There are some really interesting Foulborn uniques, but most of them aren't really in meta builds that, like, at least as of yet. And so there are some things that are just very strong but very undervalued. So you can play around with this a lot. This is the setup that I've been playing with, just trying to make just like some very basic uniques. I was trying to make some body armor uniques, but you could do a lot of other stuff. You could try making jewels, for example, with this node here, like more breach specific jewels, and play around with that. The Foulborn unique system, where some of the modifiers will be converted into a very different type of modifier, is bespoke. So everything has been handcrafted by GGG. You can look at this on PoEDB and see more. I'm definitely not going to go into it because there's like hundreds of things. Then there's the graft system. So this is the setup that I've been using coming up through the top here, modifier tier rating and chance to birth an additional graft. I'm not worrying as much about rarity. If they're low rarity, I basically just throw them away. You want to have a random amount of quality, it's fine. That's like kind of a must. I think everything you can do to just get more grafts, and that's the same for like crafting items and crafting uniques and crafting everything really, currency, is just getting more chances, more bites at the apple is more valuable than getting like increased quality. And the thing is, they're not mutually exclusive. So with that being said, I'm trying to make Esh grafts and Ol grafts, so I'm just been kind of bouncing back and forth between these two each time I make grafts. Then there's the currency item womb, and unfortunately I don't have any gifts to put into that womb right now. I've eaten them all. Yum yum, but this is the setup that I've been going with at my current level of XP. So the way that you unlock more points in the tree is just simply by spending graft blood in the tree. Right now I'm at 37,000 of 50,000, so I'm still a little bit away from the next set of point unlocks, and I'm pretty sure that'll be the last go around. I really think this is far and away the best setup here. So we have some things that are just very obviously good. Fertile Genesis, you reroll your item, you keep the rare item. Rare items are almost always more valuable in PoE, so especially when it comes to currency. So this is just a no-brainer. Then you have a bunch of small passives that give you an extra chance, or a chance at an extra currency item, and it is additional, so it stacks, and it stacks above 100%. 50% here, 50% here, 50% here. That's 150, so you're getting 2.5 items every time, and then 25% out of this, and 25% out of this. So you're getting 3 currency items every single time that you craft a currency item with the womb. Then you have Prodigal Offspring, which gives you a 25% chance to get 3 extra, so 25% chance to get 6, and then a 3% chance to get 10. Those don't stack as far as I could tell. I haven't had a double proc, at least. I haven't gotten 16 items out of a single craft. But, that's still really, really good. That still very significantly increases the amount of items you're able to craft. This item, or this bonus down here, Reflexive Contractions, a chance to get currency shards I played around with. I basically just felt like it kind of took currency away from me, like I was just getting chaos shards instead of chaos orbs. That seems bad. Wild Growth, on the other hand, 5% chance for your birth currency to drop as a full stack. Basically doubles the amount of currency you get out of this long term. Maybe you'll get 20 mirrors, you can go post on Reddit about it. You could get 20 divines, though. People have been doing that, and that's kind of become the new meme. Meme game has been very strong on Reddit this league. The things that I think are a little weaker out of this are the Foulborn currency. I got a Foulborn Exalt. It was worth like 45 chaos, which is more than a regular Exalt, but definitely less than a Divine. But, this is okay. Foulborn currency is just basically the currency from PoE 2 that, it's an Exalted Orb, but it'll only add a mod that's, item level 60 or something instead of running the risk of adding, +2 thorns to a very nicely rolled piece of gear. So it's good. The graft implants, on the other hand, from Grasping Flesh and from this small passive and from Mutation Cultivation are pretty weak. Graft implants are pretty bad. They might actually be if you could fill out this whole tree, I think you might actually not bother taking this small passive, just like you probably wouldn't want to take this one for gold. Maybe you'd want to take the gold one, but I'd just be so worried that I'd get a Mirror of Kalandra and turn it into, 100,000 gold or something that I could never do it. So I don't think Mutation Cultivation is very good, but you can take it if you want, if you found a use for graft implants, but I don't think so. The main purpose of them is just simply to throw an Exalt onto a graft. That's really all that graft implants do. Now, one little tip here is sometimes you might have 3 mods on an arm that's attached to you, and if you try to take your arms off, it'll remove all the graft blood, so you can just swap in an old one and then exalt your existing arm and then swap in the one that you're currently using, and you won't lose all of your blood. The main source of currency, in my experience, just in my few days of playing, has actually come from the mysterious item womb. And you unlock this by, playing in maps. I think you might get this from killing Vroon or whatever that lieutenant's name is. And what this does is it's essentially just grows whatever. It can be div cards, it can be maps, it can be scarabs, it can be enlightened gems. That's probably the biggest jackpot that I've gotten out of the tree, more so than even divines or exalts or anything like that. And thus far, it's clearly a very small tree. It can birth other womb gifts, so you can take lavish womb gifts. That'll give you more currency ones. But I think you're better off taking the chance for an extra item, the higher chance to get less frequently found items, and then also the chance to get more items. So let's go ahead and birth a mysterious womb gift. Also, shout out to this league. It's incredibly disgusting. One of the grossest leagues they've ever made. Stacked deck, slightly leveled gem, tier 15 Mesa map. Yeah, kind of junk. Sometimes it's junk, sometimes it is the Withering Step gem that's 2023 that I'm wearing right now. Sometimes it's, you know, the Enlighten that I needed to sell to be able to afford to craft my current bow. It is what it is. Can we make another one? Oh, nice. All right, let's do it again. There we go. Yeah, a couple more tier 15 maps. But you know, sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. One of the biggest things that we've taken away from playing around with this league mechanic so far is that the main bottleneck, if you will, is going to be graft blood more than the gifts. I think long term the approach may be to make more lavish womb gifts with the mysterious wombs. Maybe that'll wind up being the play, especially if we get a couple more points to play around in this tree. That'll definitely be the play. And I think long term people are going to just mostly be bouncing back and forth between mysterious and currency rewards, and that's kind of going to be it. With that being said, the crafting, if you want to go for fractured bases that are of high value, that can be really good. But if you're just trying to craft stuff to like sell it to people, and the same kind of goes with uniques, they kind of seem like a little bit of a waste of graft blood, and you are pretty hard bottlenecked on graft blood. It's the same currency for everything else. So, you know, you're kind of better off just funneling that into currency and then the mysterious womb gifts as well. All right, that's it. This is a league mechanic with like kind of the perfect GGG complements of like super simple, you just run around and kill stuff, but then also there's a ton of depth and complexity as well. They've really knocked it out of the park with this one. Okay, be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, or if we helped you make any currency, and join the Skipping Sleep Studio Discord and become part of our community. And finally, thank you to all of our channel members. If you want to support us and help us make more PoE content, become a channel member or come boost the Discord. Thanks for watching. Bye.